Hello, my name is Anna Spew and this is International Trade Focus. Now, on last week's episode, we took a look at the economic impacts of the coronavirus on Ghana. We had a section of the business community share with us the impact that the coronavirus has had on their various businesses. On this week's episode, we'll be taking an expert's opinion on the impacts of the coronavirus on the world's economy and then finally narrow it down to the impacts of the coronavirus on Ghana's economy. So stick and stay. This episode promises to be educative. Now, we can't proceed without saying special thanks to the sponsors of this program. International Trade Focus is brought to you by Ghana Free Zones Authority. They say sharing good fortunes and supported by GOL, Good Energy, ADB, Truly, Agric and more. International Trade Focus is also supported by Pediatric Valley Resort. My name is Anna Spew. Don't go away. You're still watching International Trade Focus. On our in-depth segment, Dr. George Domfe is a senior research fellow and a development economist at the University of Ghana. Together, we're going to discuss the impact of the coronavirus on the world's economy and then narrow it down to the impact on Ghana's economy. Our in-depth segment comes up next. So China over the years has emerged as one of the world's trading giants. What China has to their advantage is the gigantic population and production efficiency, among others. Now, in present day, as we are all aware, China is facing an epidemic, the coronavirus, and this has not affected only China's economy, but has also affected the world's economy as well. Dr. George Domfe is a senior research fellow and a development economist at the University of Ghana. We come to discuss with him the impacts of the coronavirus on the world's economy, and we'll narrow it down to the impact of the coronavirus on Ghana's economy. Doc, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, and welcome back to my office.
Thank you once again. So, taking a look at the impacts of the coronavirus. Now, we are aware that it has not affected just the economy of China, but the world's economy as well. So take us through the various economies or the various sectors of the world's economies that this coronavirus has affected.
Yes, if you talked about the coronavirus, it has a lot of economic adverse consequences. And it's not only for China, but largely for the rest of the world. This is so because Chinese economy has become the second largest economy in the world. They import from other economies and they also export to other economies. And so with what is happening, what it means is that countries that they would have otherwise imported from, they are no more doing it. And when they are not doing it, what it means is that those countries' local production is going to be affected. And so the producers of whatever China imports, they are going to be out of business. And when they are out of business, what does that mean? It means that people are going to be out of jobs. And when people get out of job, they can't pay revenue, they can't pay taxes. And so the revenue mobilization of those economies are going to suffer. And so that is how I will look at it. But specifically, let me look at it from the oil demand. Now we are told that the global demand for oil has gone down drastically. People put it around, experts put it around 450,000 barrels a day. And so the demand of oil has gone down as much as 450,000 barrels a day. What does this mean? It means that there should be a drop in the price for oil. And once there is a drop in the price of oil, all the oil producing economies are going to suffer. And so here I'm talking about Nigeria, here I'm talking about Algeria, I'm talking about Iran, I'm talking about Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the oil giants, they're all going to suffer. Not leaving Ghana out, because Ghana, we also now produce oil. And so if you look at our budget for last year, we estimated price for crude oil. And so if it comes down, what it means is that the expected inflows of revenue from oil is going to go down, and that would in large affect the general economy. And so from the oil side, that is how I see the oil producing economies are going to suffer. seriously if God has not intervened to bring this story to an end. And so that is from the oil. Now, apart from oil, what again? I was talking about the imports. So economies that would import from China, including Ghana. It is said that every year, Ghanaian economy imports 1.8 billion worth of goods from Chinese market. And not China, not Ghana alone, many developing countries and even developed all go to China to buy what is produced over there. And so now, if this is not happening, it means that China is going to, the economy of China is going to suffer. Of course, they are not producing. Now, most of their factories have been shut down, and for that matter, they are not producing. So when they are not producing, what is happening? Workers there are going to suffer. I don't know how long they can continue to pay workers who, no fault of theirs, have to go home and rest. And so we look at it also that those of us in Ghana who otherwise would have imported goods worth 1.8 billion from Chinese market to our local market here, people involved are also going to be out of business, especially the women. My people, Kumasi, I come from Kumasi, so my people from Kumasi cannot go to China anymore to import. And when they are not able to import, what is happening? They're going to be out of business. When they are out of business, it means that they cannot pay taxes that otherwise they would have paid to government. What is more, whatever that they sell, the economy is not so ready and so prepared to produce them immediately. And so there are certain key things that they get it so cheaply from China. But today, where are they going to import those things from? Is it from South Africa, from UK, from US? Wherever that they will do it, it might be costly, compared to what they were getting so cheaply from China. And so even if they should go to UK, for example, to import to Ghana what they have been importing from China, we should expect price increases over those commodities. And that will not be good for a Ghanaian consumer. And so, by and large, I see inflation, prices of goods and services going up in the near future.
Now, talking about this, taking a country like Ghana that depends heavily on China, we import most of the things, most of the traders or most of the importers here import their wares or their goods from China. And this epidemic has faced this country, so they can't go to China to import their things and to come and sell in Ghana. Going forward, do you think that import substitution will have a way of curbing this, considering the fact that we depend so much on importing from outside, and this coronavirus is in now, so people can't pay their workers. They say interest on their loans are accruing and all of that. So shouldn't there be a measure to curb this over-dependence on imports?
That is right, and I think in one of our conversations we did talk about that. So Kwame Nkrumah in the 1960s, talked about doing something to replace our imports, and so he had a policy that was known as import substitution. What it meant was that let's try as much as we can to produce more of what we have to consume here. And so because of that, he set up so many factories, but they didn't see the light of the day, especially after his demise from the political scene. In the last couple of years, we have seen policies being put up by the government, one district, one factory, planting for food and job, and all these policies are meant to boost local production. And so when we talk about import substitution, it's all about anything that you can do to boost your local production. In other words, anything you can do to produce what otherwise would have been, imported from other economies is wealthy sort. Where we are, we cannot do anything apart from that, because you see, job creation has become a problem to this economy over the years. And so the way out there is to now be inward looking when it comes to consumption. We try to produce much of the goods that we have to consume. I don't like it when people say that we even import toothpick from China, and that is the reality. We have bamboo here, We have, land and, the soil tap that can support growth of bamboo. Why don't we grow more bamboos so we can, produce the toothpick? And we go all the way to China to do that. And so it is time that we started looking inwardly by trying to produce a lot of what we consume. The most important thing about this is that as you get to do that, you are also creating jobs for the people. And that is why I'm so much interested with the various policy measures this government has put in place to make sure the local production goes to the next level. And when it does, most of these things that we would have imported would be produced in the country. We create jobs for the people. Government will tax them. Government revenue goes up. And that is what they call it Ghana Beyond Aid, because government can mobilize more resources. And when that happens, we wouldn't have to chase those small loans with exorbitant rates, such that at the end of every fiscal year, we have to go back and recount that this year, instead of having to spend so and so on this, we have to spend this on interest payment and all those kind of things. I think that now the way to go is to look for policies that can help boost local production.
So let's take this back to the global market or the global economy. Now, China is one of the top 10 largest economies in the world, with America being the first, China being the second. Now, some experts, there's this theory that this is all part of the trade war gimmicks. Fine, the coronavirus is there, it's affecting people, it's killing people. But when you take a look at the population of China, 1.something billion, as compared to the number of people who have actually had the virus or even died from it, is 0.00%. So some analysts are of the view that perhaps America is contributing in blowing this whole thing out of proportion, so they can take advantage of this and then sort of boost their own economy and make sure that China is forever beneath them. Do you agree with this?
Those was let's leave them for the giants to fight. There is a saying that when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers, and so let's leave them to fight. But then I want to say that yes, over the last couple of years we have seen that trade war between U.S. and China. But I tell you, they also do many things in common. And let me also say that this thing that is happening is not in favor of the United States of America, because their economy has also started experiencing some shocks. In fact, the last 2 days, the stock markets in U.S. started experiencing some negative consequences, due to the corona, virus. And so I want to say that it's not a good news, not for U.S., not for any other country. I do not think that with this, if we don't go to China to import the toothpick, we are going to go to U.S. to get a toothpick. I don't know, because there are so many things that we get from China that U.S. even doesn't have them at all. Of course, U.S. is the biggest economy, far larger than any other economy in the world. Yes, China is following suit. Now getting closer to U.S. It's become very big in terms of, the GDP size, not in terms of the growth. Development. When it comes to development, China is nowhere near, U.S., because China is not one of the developed countries. China is just a middle-income country, with a per capita income of around, 8 to 9,000, between 8 to 9,000, U.S. dollars. And we talk about the per capita income of United States of America around $60,000. And so you can see the gap. UK and all those countries have a far larger per capita income. In fact, South Korea even is having about $18,000 per capita income. And so what it means is that South Korea, people living in South Korea are much more comfortable compared to those living in China. And so in terms of development, we have economic, we have GDP and we have the development. In terms of development, China, when you are talking about developed countries, you wouldn't want to mention China. It's not one of them. China is a middle-income country. It's a middle-income economy. U.S. is developed. When you hear G7, G8, we are talking about those countries, they are far developed. And so I do not think that U.S. Would want what is happening to happen just to take an advantage, because I do know that now, or if ever they thought about that, then it's not something that they plan well, because now it is affecting almost all countries. I mean, Italy has now been affected. Even, I mean, Africa, we are talking about Egypt, where they have,
You said one case.
Exactly. And so it's not a good news for anybody, not for those of us in Ghana, not for anybody, I mean, in the world. So that's how I want to put it. And I want to say that, yes, U.S., the largest economy, may have advantage in terms of, the imports of their exports of their goods to other economies. And that is if those particular goods that they were competing with China, electronics and those other things. But there are so many things China does that you wouldn't get it from U.S. market, and so that is where everybody will suffer. And we all know going to U.S. to buy things to Ghana, they are always very expensive, not because of the distance, but because of the quality. U.S. what they produce compared to what we get from China, we all know, even for the phone, what you get 30 cedis, you are getting Chinese phone from Ghanaian market. U.S. you will not go there and get any phone that you come and sell it here 30 cedis and you still will break even. And so what will then happen is that many people cannot buy phone in Ghana, and so the few ones that will come, prices of it will go up, because the basic economic principle will tell you that when the supply is low, price goes up. And so if we don't get those cheaper things from China as we have, if they are not in the system, the few expensive ones that are in quote and quality from the other developed world, prices will double, and ordinary Ghanaian cannot afford those goods.
So here's the case that we mentioned import substitution earlier, and some of the traders are talking about the fact that yes, if there are goods in the country that they can, go and buy and sell, why would they want to go out there and then go and import things and come and sell in our country? But they're also of the view that the products here in Ghana are expensive. So what can we do about that? Should we look at the quality and forget about the price, or there's a way that we can manage?
Yeah, there is a way. It's all policy direction from the government, and that one, I think over the last couple of years we have seen it happening, but we want to see more of it happening. For example, interest rate has come down drastically, all the way from 25.5% it was in 2016 to now 16%. What does that tell you? It means that the lending rate is also falling, and so cost of credit has declined. When I go to bank to take credit at a lower cost, at an affordable cost, when I produce, firms are in the business to make profit. So when I produce, I look at the cost of credit. Not that alone. When I produce, I look at the cost of energy. In fact, in Ghana, we have problem with energy. Electricity is so high, and because of cost of electricity and cost of credit, many businesses have collapsed in Ghana, right? And so the only way to stay in businesses is for Ghana government to intervene with very good policies that will help bring down the interest rate, for example, to far lower than what it is today. 16%, yes, it has come down from 25.5%, but I still think 16% is still too high. Again, even though it has dropped over 10 percentage points, what did I say? From 25 to 16, about 900 percentage points decline. We have witnessed in the last 3 years, but the 900 percentage point decline, ask me whether it has reflected the decline in the lending rate. And I would say not that much. Of course, the average lending rate that used to be 34% had now, in 2016, has now come to about 23%. You could see that the decline in the policy rate couldn't move along with it the lending rate, even though we have seen lending rate also going down in that way. And that one, people would say that the banks are cheating, customers. And I always say I have a different opinion on that. That is not true, because it's not only the policy rate that will determine the lending rate. Risk of doing businesses. So the banks are going to give loans to you. They look at the risk. Are you able to pay if I give you the money? The risk of doing business is very, very important. And when we talk about the risk factors are very high with certain sectors of the economy. Talk about the agricultural sector, for example, because of rainfall. And so if the banks are going to give money to you, what is it? What's the confidence? That at the end of the day, you're going to get money to pay back. Yeah, and that one, I've seen the government working to help reduce the risk. For example, risk of not getting water. So irrigation, we need to work harder than what we are doing to get our lands irrigated, so that in that way, a farmer would not have a problem because, in the middle, 1 month, 2 months, it didn't rain. Apart from that, patronage of farm produce has been a problem. People produce more, farmers, and most of them will go bad because they didn't get market for that. And that is why one district, one factory has become very important. If it works very well, what it means is that at any point in time, there will be ready market for the farm produce. And when all these things happen, the risk of doing farming is going down. And when the risk goes down, the lending rate to the agricultural sector or to the farmers will become affordable, so that everybody could enter into any bank at any time to take loan to do businesses. And when this happens, that is when we are going to see those involved in agricultural chain of production expanding their frontiers to employ and engage more hands. And when they do that, students we have taught 10 years, 15 years, they are not getting job, will get job to do. They will pay taxes, and everybody will be comfortable. The government will be comfortable. The government is going to mobilize so much revenue, resources without depending on the external sector. And that is the Ghana beyond aid we are all looking for.
So the World Health Organization has said that it will take roughly 18 months to find a vaccine for the coronavirus. And as we've established, we depend heavily on China. We import so many things, all sorts of things from China into the country. So in the next 6 or even more months, our traders, those whose activities revolve around China, will not have the opportunity to go there to import their goods. And then even the manufacturers there, the workers there, they are not going out. Free movement of goods, persons, and services have virtually ceased in China. So in your position, what would you advise that we do?
I think there is a saying that necessity is a mother of all invention. And so as you find yourself in such situations, then you have to think. Maybe we were not thinking because we never foresaw these things coming. Fortunately, one district, one F, a few have been following this particular policy because it's so dear to my heart. Few of them are working. I hear if you go to Takoradi, for example, they now produce tiles, quite a lot. The quantity coming from Takoradi is now huge. In fact, I'm building my bathrooms and all that. The tiles that I'm using are all Ghana-made tiles. One of the things that we import so much from China is, these tiles. So this room, what you see here, they are all Chinese made. And so if this thing had happened, maybe government can quickly come up with a policy to help those factories produce. If they are producing one, help them produce 50 times one. To make way, to compensate for, that import, so that the prices of those products wouldn't go higher beyond the reach of the poor. And so that is number one. I'm talking about the tiles. I can also talk about the sanitary, products, sanitary pads, and how do you guys call it, Pampers and all that. We also have one factory under 1D, 1F, somewhere Weja are here working, and they are also producing these things. Most of the women who go out there, they go to import sanitary pads, they go to import Pampers, diapers, and all that. And if you have a factory producing it here, then government should step in immediately to help that factory produce more than it could. If it had to be helping them to increase their plant size, yes, why not? So that they can produce more, and once they get to do that, at least they can compensate for some of these things that otherwise we would have imported from China, just so prices of those goods do not go beyond the reach of the poor.
So basically, government should empower the local manufacturers or the private.
Yeah. So the Ministry for Trade should see this as a crisis, and then come out immediately to do something. I think they can forge ahead with the Ministry for Finance and you know, and I know Bawumia knows a lot about some of these things as economist, you know, and a very good one as for that matter. He would understand all these things. So immediately they can do something of that sort. Of course, we say government doesn't have any business being in business. That is, the government intervention is not too good for economies such as ours, because now we have gone, ours is a small open market economy. We are so, our orientation is what? Free market economy. In free market economy, government intervention is sometimes not required. But
they need to create an enabling business environment.
Exactly. In emergency cases, government's intervention becomes necessary, quite apart from creating enabling environment. And the enabling environment, you were talking about the cost of credit. You were talking about, and electricity is too expensive. You're also talking about even corruption, that they do something to minimize the level of corruption in the economy. All these things, when you do that, you are giving confidence to the business person in Ghana and even outside to produce more in the local economy.
Right, if you just tuned in, you're watching International Trade Focus. Dr. George Donfe is a Senior Research Fellow at the University of Ghana and our guest for today. We'll be right back after this break.
Your business concepts and investment must be harnessed through a hassle-free and highly thoughtful process to make them globally competitive. That is precisely the mission of the Ghana Free Zones Authority. Ghana Free Zones Authority packages Ghana's enabling business and investment environment with endless benefits. Total exemption from major taxes and levies for first 10 years. Talk to us now about our business oasis created all over the country. Acres of industrial enclaves for all sectors. Our beneficiaries are in vibrant business, exporting finished and processed factory inputs all over the world. And what do our clients call us?
Partner.
Ghana Free Zones Authority, sharing good fortunes.
Here's innovation from GOIL that takes you further. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and GOIL has innovated to stay ahead with expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. GOIL. Good energy.
The Ghana International Trade Fair Center, under the auspices of the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the Ministry of Agriculture, presents the 24th Ghana International Trade Fair. This fair, under the theme Value Addition Trading Globally, comes off between February 27 and March 8, 2020. It will showcase an array of goods and services from over 600 exhibitors over a 2-week period at the Aliu Mahama Sports Stadium, Tamale. There will be varied on-ground entertainment, food and beverages, and a permanent playground to make every visit to the fairground a rewarding experience. For bookings and registration for the Ghana International Trade Fair to be held in Tamale, call 0555 153 955 or 0555 528 817 or 0244 469 451. You can alternatively register online at tradefairgh.com, and you can also send emails to ghtradefair@gmail.com. The Ghana International Trade Fair 2020. Value Addition, trading globally.
A warm welcome back. Our guest for today is Dr. George Donfe. We are discussing with him the impacts that the coronavirus has had on the world's economy and on Ghana's economy as well. So, Dr. Donfe, in talking about the things that we import mostly or mainly from China, let's not forget that we export items we export to China as well, and this will have an adverse effect on our economy, won't it? Take us through the figures. How much?
Okay. So at the moment, we are told that every year the total export value to China is about $4.8 billion US dollars every year. And so if you look at that money, it's huge. It's huge because our GDP size is about 48 billion. And if the export value to China alone is 4.8, then it would affect Ghanaian GDP. Because when you are measuring GDP is equal to C plus I plus J into bracket X minus M. X is what? Export, right? C, consumption, I, investment, G, government expenditure. And the M is the import. Import enters GDP as minus. So the more you import, the smaller your GDP becomes. But the more you export, the bigger your GDP becomes. And so if your export is going to decline, the X is going to decline by this figure, 4.8 billion, then it means that your GDP is going to have a lot of problem. And so what is happening to China has adverse consequences for export of Ghanaian products. And what is more, people who are involved in this value chain, the production of things that we export to China, people involved, most of them are going to become jobless. Of course, we could export to other economies, but it might not be so profitable as it going to China. And so some may want to do wait and see. They will cut production. And when they cut production, what's going to happen? The people involved in the value chain are going to get out of business, so they will lose their jobs. And they will add on to the teeming unemployed, numbers and figures that we have.
And here is the case that we are saying that for 3 years running, we've established a trade surplus. So this is also going to...
Yeah, so the trade surplus is just X minus M. If your M is bigger than the X, then that is trade deficit. If your X is bigger than your M, because it's X minus M. So if the X is bigger, then we get what is called trade surplus. And for the first time in almost about 30 years, we recorded trade surplus, and everybody was happy. Was it last year or so? I think last 2 years.
3 years in a row.
Yeah, so it has been happening. Okay, so fantastic. And so we are doing this for the first time in many years, and that is part of the reason why our city has relatively become more stronger, And my dear sister, if you are going to lose 4.8 billion, it is huge, and definitely the export volume or the value will decline. Because if you look at the import is just 1.8 billion. The export is 4.8. And so there is a difference of what? 2 billion that is benefiting us. And so if you don't do anything with China, China will not lose as much as we will lose. And so this thing happening in China, the outbreak of the coronavirus in China, whatever adverse consequences thereof, we are sharing with China. And I can even say that if you want to look at the adverse consequences, I think the impact is so huge on us, especially looking at our economic size. So the impact will be so much felt because China was benefiting 1.8. We were buying from them 1.8 worth of goods, and they are buying from us 4.8 billion worth of goods, and our economic size is 48 billion. Theirs is over 11 trillion, whether you are looking at it in current accounts or you are measuring the GDP.
So this is just a fraction.
Exactly. So for them, it's just like a drop in the barrel of water. It wouldn't affect them so much as it will affect us. Not Ghana alone. We also see a country like New Zealand, and 27% of their exports also goes to China, right? And so they're also going to suffer a lot. And as I said, the adverse consequences or implications are the loss of job, loss of revenue to the government, because if people are not working, they can't pay tax, the companies cannot pay tax and all that. And so this is what is going to happen to the rest of the economy. And that is why we all have to pray very hard that whatever that is happening, wherever that the corona came from, they go back.
So it's good to have some sort of ripple effects on various sectors in our economy. Now, this is what majority of the traders are saying, by the way. They are saying that we should pray that China gets healed. I mean, they find a vaccine, and then this coronavirus or corona disease is contained.
In fact, the problems about it, if you want to go on and on and on, we can talk and talk. I'm limiting myself so much to the economy, but even it has other social implications. Chinese universities are all of a sudden are doing so well. They teach in English. And so that has attracted quite a significant number of students from the developing world to China to do medicine and other related courses. And so many go there now, and these students are now stranded home. Some are even entrapped. They can't come, you know, and it is affecting the, educational system in China. Another thing that has made China what it is today is that over the last 40 years or so, they strategically train certain group of people to come home and develop the economy. And so every year, if they saw they needed 1,000 medical students, they would then identify very good universities in the world. It doesn't matter whether it is in Ghana, it doesn't matter whether it is in the US, for the people to go and study medicine. And right after they finish, they go back to China. And that is one of the, the main reason why China is developing so fast. And so as we speak, millions of Chinese students have been studying from universities in Europe and in the US, in Canada, and the other places. Because of what is happening, those who were in China before the outbreak cannot go to their universities. So in a way, it is affecting the cash inflows to those universities. In fact, Legon, one of the how we manage our things, one of the reasons why we are staying afloat, financially afloat, is because foreign students come to study here and they pay dollars, right? And so if you have Chinese students who otherwise should have come to study and they are not forthcoming, what is happening? You are losing that much. And most European universities are now crying, finances-wise, because they are not getting financial-wise, they are not getting the money.
Considering the fact that they have a gigantic population.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And they are in millions. They are in millions. When I went to Germany, I remember my flat I was sharing with Chinese students, who would also, who were all there to study. And one thing about them is that as soon as they finish their studies, they go back to their countries to help. It's not like Ghana, when you are finishing, where even some Ghanaian students would delay their thesis just so they could have number of years to stay and do any work, So that is the story. It is not good for export as well, quite apart from the import. But you see, talking about that, almost everything in the world, it doesn't matter how bad it is, you see some few signs that would appear positive, and one of it is a strength, the current strength CD, has gained, is significantly. I wouldn't say it is all. It is significantly because there is a low demand for dollars. Because people who otherwise would have been in queue today to exchange cedis to dollar to go to China to bring those goods are not doing that. And so that has gone down. We shouldn't forget that that is not the only thing that has helped cedi to have this value. Another significant reason is also that we raised 3 billion Eurobond just about 3 weeks ago. And so our reserves has now gone up. In fact, I think we are having, before then, we were having about 6 months import-export cover. And with the 3 billion, we're going to have more import-export cover. And if you are an economy with over 6 month import cover, you are always, you don't have a space to supply more dollars if your local currency is having problems. And so Bank of Ghana today has that advantage. And that has in a way killed the speculative motive for holding what? Dollar. People speculate. Mm-hmm. People go to the exchange rate market to speculate. What I mean here is that they don't take the dollar to do any business. They use cedis to buy dollar and keep the money in anticipation that cedi will fall in value, for which reason they would sell their dollars and make more profit. People are doing it. In fact, the dangerous aspect and the very worrying aspect of the whole situation is that I do hear people from our sister countries, mm-hmm. in our neighbors, people are traveling from Nigeria, from other countries closer to Ghana to speculate in the Ghanaian exchange rate market. And so when they come here to speculate and join in that business, the dollars that otherwise would have been released for people to use to work, they get hold of them and hold them. They keep them.
in anticipation that cedi will fall more for them to sell and make profit. And when that happens, it makes cedi, it causes cedi to depreciate what? Further. And so I hear people say the current strength of cedi is because of what is happening in China. If you say that you are not being fair, it's not only that. I have said it on several platforms that the 3 billion, Eurobond is also one of the reasons, because now the central bank is more poised to supply more dollars, and the speculators, when they get to know that the speculation is subsided, they stop. Some would even stop at all to do wait and see, maybe 4 or 5 months before they continue their speculation. And the speculative motive for holding what? Dollar has also helped with the strength of the cedi. Vis-a-vis the Chinese, what is happening to China. And so today we are being told cedi is the strongest performing currency against dollar in the world. And these are, it's due to many reasons, but I think the 2 significant reasons are those that I have mentioned.
Thank you very much, Dr. George Domfeh. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. George Domfeh is a Senior Research Fellow and a Development Economist at the University of Ghana. You're watching International Trade Focus. We'll be back shortly.